Hello and welcome back to the colony with Man of the Antz. This is a very, very exciting day. Today I finally got my grubby little mitts on Microsoft Flight Simulator. Microsoft have been making simulators for almost 40 years now, but this is the first new game in about 14 years, I think. So it's been a long time coming. I'm sure you're all vaguely aware of it, but to give you a very brief overview, it's a full one-to-one recreation of the planet in itself. That's nothing new. It uses satellite imagery to do the texture mapping on the terrain in itself. Again, that's nothing new. What is new is that it streams the terrain details from the Azure cloud. So it uses the Bing map data. So in total, there's about 2 petabytes of data that the game uses to generate its textures, which is insane. That's an insane level of detail. On top of that amazing amount of detail, Asobo, the developers, or one of their third-party contractors, who I'm sure they've got dozens, developed an AI system which can generate buildings on top of the maps. The buildings will be roughly the right size, the right design, the right look for whatever location they are in. So the game does look insanely good. I'm sure you've all seen some trailers. It essentially looks, particularly from a distance, pretty much photorealistic. Not to say it doesn't have its issues that I've seen in some of the press builds and the such like, but it is an amazing technological advancement in game development, really it is. This is the first game that a lot of people are saying is actually a next gen game. So I'm not going to waffle on too much. We're just going to jump into it. Today we're just going to do a quick flight. I'm not going to worry too much about any of the training or the full the flight setup, getting all the startup done properly. I'm just going to jump in there. We're just going to get flying. We're going to have a look at it today. There is going to be a bit of a series on this. I'm very excited to play this, and I want to play a fair bit of it. Because of my very limited time, I can only play things really which I record for the channel. So although this doesn't really fit within the niche of the channel, you're going to see a lot of it. So prepare yourselves. Hopefully you guys enjoy it though. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? So my plan today is, they say a lot of the press release versions, when they had their talks from Asobo and from Microsoft, the first thing that a lot of them said was, the first thing you do in Microsoft Flight Simulator is you find your home, because you can. So this is my part of the world down here. Now what I wanted to do was take off from Exeter, was my intention. Which, oh, there it is. I was going to say, I didn't realize Exeter Airport was that far down. I thought Exeter was a bit more up here, but that would be Exmouth, so I suppose that makes sense, doesn't it? So yes, Plymouth has an airport, interestingly. Plymouth Airport is no longer open, so that's interesting. I did grow up in Plymouth. My plan today is to take off from Exeter. We're going to cut across Dartmoor, which is roughly here-ish. And then we're going to make our way to Plymouth so I can have a look around Plymouth, which, as I say, is where I grew up. So let's zoom in so we can actually click on Exeter. We shall say it's set as departure. We're not going to have a live arrival. I suppose we can set Plymouth as an arrival airport, can we? Doesn't make much difference, but... Ooh, Plymouth? No, that's the wrong Plymouth. Fantastic. I tried and failed. Is that one, isn't it? There we go. So there we go. Nice short flight, 5 minutes in this particular plane. We'll have a look at that in a second. We're not going to worry too much about the runways. Like I say, I just want to get into it. Flight conditions. I am recording this around lunchtime. On my lunch, I'm recording this. So we're going to put live weather on. It's currently a bit cloudy around here, so I don't know what it's going to be like around Exeter and Plymouth. We'll leave the live players off for the moment. Air traffic will leave on, and weather and time we'll put to live. Perfect. Alright, so, as I said, I don't want to faff around too much. We'll just pick a plane, shall we? Now, everyone says not everyone says, the sensible one to go for to start with is the Cessna, because it is the one that you do your training in. But I think I might go for something a little different. Maybe we'll go for... Where is the Cessna? Where are you? There, the Cessna 152. That's the one that you do your training in, so it's the one that is probably a good starting plane. But I want to try something a little different, like I say. Let's go with the Robin. Looks like it's got a lot of window space. In fact, no, this one here has even more window space, look. So we'll pick that. We won't touch any of this for now. So we're going to go off in the Robin from Exeter to Plymouth and hopefully see a little bit of Dartmoor on the way. That's the intention. It does have some quite long load times. In future videos, I will endeavour to remove those from the recording, so that it seems to be flying up at the moment saying that. But for now, for this first one, I want you guys to get the full experience. Talking of the full experience, so the game's been available to preload on the Microsoft Xbox Game Store and on Steam for a while now. The preload was a lie. So you preloaded the 500 meg wraparound client for the game. Once you start the game, there is then a 91 gigabyte download. Now I heard about that beforehand, so I set the download going last night shortly after midnight, went to bed happy and content to be able to play first thing in the morning. Apparently either the game crashed or my PC reset or something happened. It downloaded 6 gig and that was it. So it's been downloading the rest of it this morning, but that is particularly important to note for Steam users, because the time you spend downloading the game will count towards your play time. So if you aren't entirely sure and you're thinking about using the Steam refund, any play time downloading that initial 90 gig could invalidate your reasons or invalidate your time window to refund. So yeah, bit of a shame. Anyway, Microsoft Flight Simulator. As I said, it's a one-to-one recreation of the planet. It uses Bing. I don't really know Exeter Airport that well, so I can't say how well this looks like it, but what I can say is that the game features 37 to 40,000 airports. This is the standard version of the game, so I believe there are 30 airports that have been handcrafted. So there are 30 airports that have had manually buildings built so they look exactly like the actual airports. Every other airport has had manual intervention so that the Asobo and third-party contractors can set the runways, the taxiways and that sort of thing. The buildings won't be exactly right, but they will be in the rough place where the Bing satellite data shows them to be. So it won't be completely wrong, it just won't be entirely accurate. So that is a massive, massive accomplishment as well. Restricted view angle, looking over the panel may be difficult. We have the parking brake, which I didn't set a control for. That's another thing I'll mention my setup very quickly. I did set a... There we go, yes, look at that. We can look outside. I did set... And how do we do free looks? There we go, holding down the mouse button. Beautiful. So as I said, it's a little cloudy today. My setup, so PC wise, it's a Ryzen 7 2700. The game is installed to an M2 SSD. I've got 1080 Ti graphics card. The game I've left in its default, whatever it decided it's going to put these settings on, so it's in Ultra at the moment. I run at 1440, so it's not K, so we'll see how the frame rate goes. I do have 32 gig of RAM now. I did only have 16 gig, but when I saw that they said that if you want to run it at a high level, you should get 32 gig, I went and bought another 16 gig of RAM. And control-wise, I have the Satec, or what is now Logitech X55 HOTAS, so that's a throttle and a stick. And I have the Satec Pro Flight rudder pedals as well. The rudder pedals were picked up by the game and had controls automatically mapped to them. Weirdly, the X55 wasn't detected by the... Well, was detected by the game, but it didn't have a preset control scheme for it. Now, that's a little bit frustrating. So I've had to set some very basic controls. So we have the rotation and the lift there done. We have the throttle that you can... That is reversed, so the throttle has to be forward at the moment. I'm just going to leave that as it is because we're probably not going to play around with the throttle too much, but I need to reverse that throttle because that's obviously gone weird. I put a few of the controls onto the buttons, for example, the view one, but the pedals themselves are fine. That must be a mistake. The X55, the X56, the X52, they're a pretty popular joystick combination, or HOTAS combination I should say, so I think that must be a mistake. There's something that's gone wrong there, whether it's because it's not the Logitech version. Apparently my internet connection's disappeared, which it hasn't, so that's interesting as well. So yes, I've got some very basic controls but nothing more. So let's figure out how we're going to control and... Oh, I didn't put brakes on my controllers, annoyingly. Numpad decimal, so that should be my brakes off, I think. So let's... I have no other controls mapped. I haven't looked at the keyboard controls because I wasn't really expecting to have to worry about them too much. Oh, the connection is back up. So I should say, I did say the game streams 2 petabytes of data, potentially, from Azure to generate the terrain and the scenery and everything. If you're not connected to the internet, you can still play, you just won't have anything that's quite as fancy. So, I'm going to pull the throttle back. Numpad control, numpad decimal. Is it because I've got numlock on? Why is that not working? Numpad decimal. Numpad decimal. There we go. You had to use the left control for some reason. For some weird reason, it had to be the left control. So, here we go. I'll have a look at the map in a second and try and figure out where it is I'm going to go. So the rudder pedals are fairly sensitive. I'll talk about the rudder pedals a bit in a second as well. And we are off. Look at that. So I don't currently have anything set up on my stick to do any look around, which is annoying. I do have the hat up there, but I don't have that option. I'm just going to press B and just whatever it does, it does. Can we see the map somewhere? I just need to know roughly where I'm heading. Is there a compass that I can see on screen? No, not really. So where would we find the map? Probably need to do some trim settings, but I don't currently have. That's the map. Oh, that'll do. So that was just V, was it? Let's just test that. Perfect. Yes. Let's pop outside of the plane a second. So we want to be heading slightly more in this direction. The throttle isn't max, but it's pulled forward for me, which is very weird. So I'm guessing this is Exeter over here then. I don't know Exeter too well, but just take a moment. Take a moment. Look at that. Joystick left axis right. There we go. That got rid of that. Just take a look at that detail. So all of these buildings are 3D models. I doubt Exeter's had any manual intervention. You can see traffic on the roads. The texture's amazing. The buildings are popping up. The depth is amazing. The clouds look amazing. What an insane achievement for a game already. Now I say I don't know Exeter very well, so there's not much I can really look at over there to say whether it's particularly good or not. I'm guessing we don't have any gears to go in. As in our landing gear. I did set a button, but no, it's fixed by the look of it, so we'll just leave that as is. Oh, and my headphones are running out of battery. That is perfect. I might just mute the game then, because I don't think I actually want to stop playing. Now that I've finally got in. Now that I've finally got in. Let's pop back inside the cockpit then. I did not, because I wasn't in the plane, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to listen to you anyway. We just need to get rid of that message again. I'm going to turn my headphones off so they don't beep in my ears a lot, which is a bit of a shame. We're going to miss the audio, but you guys will be able to hear it back home anyway, but I will stop the beeping in my ears. So, just past Exeter. Let's get a bit lower, shall we? Let's get a little bit lower. Let's get that mouse cursor off the middle of the screen. Let's get rid of the map for the moment. Let's get a little bit lower. Assists-wise, it looks like my plane should probably be ripping itself apart about there. That's exactly what happened. Overstress the aircraft and cause critical damage. So that is one of the options I'm going to go and disable, so we don't have to worry about that. What I was going to say was I've left everything on pretty much the default option, so it's a sort of medium assist level. There are some things it helps you with, some things it doesn't. But yes, obviously I left the damage model on, which we didn't really want, did we? Now, there is an old airport on Dartmoor. I doubt that... Oh, it's already left us at Exeter, though. So we'll just say ready to fly. We'll do the awkward brake maneuver. We will pop into the options very briefly. We'll go into assistance. Failure and damage. Crash damage disabled. Stress damage disabled. Engine stress disabled. Yeah, that's fine. Apply and save. So one of the things I'll show you while I'm in the options I was quite excited by in the controls is when you pick something that it recognises, it shows you the actual control system, and then where it is that you might, it's a very awkward one because it's only got axes, and where the buttons and stuff are that you're actually using. Because sometimes they have very odd names, like just buttons 1 to 20, which mean nothing to you. But this is what it looks like on my X55. So the X55, HOTAS, hasn't... And that picture looks very much like the X55. They've got the silhouette is correct, but it just hasn't picked it up for some reason. Very frustrating. My headphones are still beeping. They haven't turned off for some reason, so I'm just going to put them over there so they're not loud anymore. So let's resume. We are off. Is there a bigger map that I can look at? Not travel to, objectives, nav log, fuel, AI control, basic controls, checklist, camera, ATC. None of those things. Is it travel to? It's not quite what I want, is it? Nav log? No. I was really hoping there'd be a way you could just see a full map whilst you are in here, but obviously not. No. So you can change the weather in real time. As I mentioned earlier, it does have live weather. So the weather is live as it is at the moment at 12:26 in the afternoon. Although it's actually 12:34, so you're a little off there, but not to worry. So this would be the weather as it is over Exeter, pretty much. What you can do, of course, is play around. You can set the weather to whatever you want. We can have broken clouds. You can also, though, manually adjust the weather. So we can bring those clouds we can see there and put them wherever we want. The weather system is amazing. The rain on the cockpits looks amazing. It all is amazing. But for now... Oh, get my rudders confused. Press B to get rid of that message. You can disable the tooltips, because B wasn't doing much for a while there. Let's bring up that little VFR map so we can see where we are. And then we need to try and figure out exactly where, where Dartmoor is. So yeah, I have played some flight simulators, but not really for many, many years. You can see here, if you do know the Southwest or just generally British cities, you can see the townhouses look roughly as they should. They look like British townhouses to me. You can see that the actual textures themselves aren't amazing once you get very close, but it does have roads, it does have AI traffic on it as well. As I said at the very beginning, there are some things that don't work amazingly well. So in some of the other people's YouTubers' press release versions of stuff, I've seen bridges that go underwater, piers and docks that are underwater, cars that travel underwater because the bridge is underwater, some areas near the coast which have got water on them, but they clearly are supposed to be land. So here's a river here. Let me take a first little look at a river. You can see here some of the textures there are a bit flat where they would have the boats and the such like, but it's only because we're very, very close. What is our altitude? Where is altitude? So we are like 700 feet. Realistically, you're never going to fly 700 feet above Exeter. That's a crazy thing to do. You can see the plane is going way over its manufacturer's speed. So I'm going to guess that light green just in the distance there we can see is going to be where we're starting to see Exeter and the such like. Dartmoor and the such like. If you don't know, we can zoom out. Perfect. Oh yeah, there it's actually quite far away, isn't it? So I might actually put a bit of a cut in the video here until I get a bit closer, because we do have a fair distance to travel, and this isn't the fastest plane in the world. So maybe we'll do that at some point. But for now, let's just enjoy this wonderful British countryside in some sun as well, which is amazing. Obviously, all the trees are AI generated as well, based on where they've been detected by the satellite imagery. It's hard to overstate how much of a technological accomplishment this game is for Asobo. Now, if you don't know Asobo, you've probably heard of at least one thing they've done. The game they did prior to this was A Plague Tale: Innocence, which is a very well received, I think it's a stealth game, I haven't played it myself. Not something they've really done before, but it was very well done. Before that, they did a Zoo Tycoon port. And if you look at their portfolio before that, it's nonsense. It's like Disney tie-in games and honestly just kind of crap games. It looks like just things they just knock out to make a bit of money. How they went from that to doing A Plague Tale and then from that to doing Flight Simulator for Microsoft is insane. And what is even more insane is that they seem to have actually carried it off. The game has had amazing reviews so far. It's been amazingly well received. All the flight sim community seems to be up in arms, but in a very positive way, at how good the game looks and what they think it's going to play like. All the press release videos and stuff have been amazing as well. Honestly, this is a massive shot in the arm to the flight sim community, of which I'm not a part. I did mention I have played them, but going back 15 years or something like that is when I got into flight sims for a little while. Nowadays, I'm unfortunately a little bit too busy, but there we go, it is what it is, isn't it? So yes, I am going to, one, reorientate my plane, so I'm at least following this line, vaguely. And then I'm going to put a little cut in the video, and we'll reappear when we're somewhere over Dartmoor. Okay, so this is a little bit more like it. This is what I expect Dartmoor to look like from above. Just rugged terrain, brown with little bits of green. It's got a little bit of fish. You can see where we are on the map there. So we're most of the way through our journey, maybe four-fifths through our journey. And we've just hit what the game... I don't know what the ISO lines are exactly, but that's pretty much where Dartmoor is. Pretty much. We're going to get a little bit closer. Obviously, you're going to turn all the stress off, so all the alarms are going off because we are going very fast, almost 215 knots. So much faster than the plane is designed to go, but we've turned all of the stress damage off. Oh, look at how amazing that looks. From a distance, it looked amazing. From this medium distance, it continues to look fantastic. So if you don't know the UK, if you don't know moorland, moorland is essentially like very rugged terrain. It's all bogs and peats and moors and heather and very beautiful, very, very beautiful. See all the stones on the ground. Look, it looks amazing, doesn't it? It looks amazing. And it's still pretty dry, which for Dartmoor is quite amazing. I've spent a fair bit of time on Dartmoor, and it's very changeable weather-wise. You can be walking in beautiful sunshine one minute, and then you go over the crest of a hill, and suddenly rain. Rain everywhere you can see. But I was interested to see, because I know that on something like Google Maps, for example, obviously I don't use Bing Maps very much, because who does, unfortunately? Sorry, Microsoft. Dartmoor's terrain mapping isn't as detailed as the cities, because why would it be? Why do you need to map a national park of nothingness as much as you would a city? So it makes complete sense. So I wanted to see what it looked like when we got up close to Dartmoor. And there's something interesting over here. I'm guessing this is going to be, where are we? Yes, we're just getting towards the edge of Dartmoor, sort of just heading towards the sort of Plymouth territory. And this is going to be one of the big quarries that I think I could see from one of the places I used to live. Certainly looks like it, doesn't it? It's definitely a quarry or a mine of some form. Pop back into the cockpit. It's getting a little bit hazy now. As I said, very changeable weather-wise. I'll put this over there. Look, it's actually shown us. So if we compare that to the VFR map, yeah, that's bang on, isn't it? So let's get a little bit closer to this quarry then and the water. So you can see there again, some of the flat texture's not working amazingly, but who can complain, really? Anyone who's into flight sims or anything like that, this is obviously a massive step up over everything that exists at the moment, including, really, the X-Plane sort of premium add-ons that you can buy from third parties and the such like. Obviously, Microsoft have already announced that third party, I am going to change the weather in a second, because this is going to get... This is what I mean. Blue skies just then, and now we are in... It's not raining, but it's not very nice either, is it? So let's... If we just try and control the plane with my left hand a second. I'll have to change my mouse over to the other side, I think. So we can get into the weather up here, and we can change the live weather to, we'll just say few clouds. There we go, and now we can see everything. So we've just passed the edge of Dartmoor then, by the look of it. If we just flip around a second... Yeah, that massive mine structure. Go away, B marker. That rugged terrain doesn't look quite as hilly as I'd expect it to, but that is probably something to do more with the fact that I am a few thousand feet in the air rather than the actual map in itself. So this is Plymouth over here, is it? I do need to move my mouse. I put the mouse on the right hand side because it's like, well, I use the mouse with my right hand all the time, but it's definitely a mistake when you need to try and control the plane at the same time. Plymouth looking a lot flatter than it actually is. Don't let that fool you. It's not a city you want to ride a bike around. So the plan for Plymouth, I'm going to take a little bit of a look at a couple of... Oh, there's the actual airport. Oh, that's what the marker's on, yes. So I'd say Plymouth Airport hasn't been an active airport for a few years now. A bit bigger than I would have thought it would look. Didn't even know it had 2 runways, you know. Didn't even know it had 2 runways, but it must do. It must do. So yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a squizzle at a couple of places I used to live. We'll go over the waterfront where all the old Barbican and stuff and that is. That could be quite interesting to see. The waterfront's quite vertical as well. It's not like it's quite flat with a lot of buildings on top or anything. It's quite quite a cliff face with some sort of stuff built onto the side of it. Now we're getting towards the point where I should be able to start recognising things, right? But it's a little difficult when you're flying around like this. I've come in from an angle that I wouldn't know. And I know where the airport is vaguely, but it doesn't entirely help me. So I'm just trying to keep an eye out for anything that's sort of recognisable. Well, that's the A38 then, isn't it? This big road here, that's the A38, which is the main road that goes through Plymouth. So let's try and figure out what junction this is. This is where I can show you something else that the game has. We just get about there and pop. This is active pause. So this pauses the game, sort of. As you can see, the plane... Go away indicator. I said go away. D. That's just going to stay there. There we go. It pauses the game, well, it pauses your plane in midair. The engine's still running. I think it still burns fuel. The traffic is still running underneath. If you're a multiplayer, I'm assuming any multiplayer vehicles would carry on going. But it gives you a chance where you can just pause the game, essentially, flick it around without having the actual pause menu, which obviously looks like that. You don't want that if you want to just pause the game. Sometimes you want to show something off. So yeah, what an amazing little addition. So, this roundabout here looks like, yes. So this is where we can actually see, let's unpause it and get a little lower a second. This is where we can actually see, pull up, a little bit further than I intended to go to the ground. You can see the cars freaking out there a bit as well. We could do with the plane resetting itself. So it seems to have got itself a little bit stuck at the moment. Yes. Alright then. No, we don't want to do that. We want to say go to. Where is the go to? Travel to. If we say travel to... Can I just say like here? Ooh. If I say yes, what happens? Now the game's going to load again, so it'll be interesting to see how long the load takes. So it's not going to load again. Is it because I... Ah, no, nothing's happening. That's a little frustrating, isn't it? So what I was going to say is this building here is roughly accurate. That is a EDF building. This building here is inaccurate. That's actually a petrol station. So that's being detected quite wrong, hasn't it? What I'd love to be able to do is just say, just pop me back in the air. Just pop me back up into the air. AI control. No, I don't want any of that. If I say control aircraft, what are you going to do? You're going to put the throttle right up and then nothing's going to happen. Let's turn that off again. Basic controls, what does that do? Ah, see again, it shows you the pedals, it doesn't show you the actual... Yeah, that's frustrated me a little bit, I'll be honest with you, my controls not showing up as a detected system. Why won't it let me select any of this, I wonder? No, the game just seems to have freaked out a little bit, doesn't it? Is there any way from in the menu? Don't want to restart. Okay, let's go to the main menu then. So that's what happens when you crash and you get your plane stuck in the ground. Lesson learnt there, I think, isn't there? So let's do this again. This time can we just say, whereabouts were we? So there's Plymouth Airport. So if we say Plymouth Airport, I don't actually want to depart from the airport. Altitude 16,000. Yeah, let's try that. Let's see what happens if we do that. And then we'll see some load times again as well while we're here. Well, there it is. The first installment was released in 1982, 38 years ago. It is an insanely long-running series. And that very first game as well was just black and white. It was black background with white lines to try and show you the terrain and all the aircraft dials and everything. Insane achievement to go from that. And it has been almost 40 years, so you'd expect there to be some progress, but it is an insane achievement. As I said, I am planning on doing a little series on this. So this video, as I said, is going to look around my hometown. My general plans then are to look at the places that I know. So we'll do a little tour of the holiday locations I've been to. It's essentially, I'm going to do a lot of stuff that everyone else is doing online. But as I said, I want to play it, so you got to see it. We just say ready to fly. If we put live pause on straight away and then turn the weather. Because apparently it is quite grey in Plymouth. Let's say few clouds. We won't let it get away with it completely. And then if we turn the live pause off, put the throttle up, and then we'll try and figure out where... Well, that's the airport. Okay, so we want to go this sort of direction. No idea what this building here is. No, I'm going to put live pause on a second. What on earth is that supposed to be? I don't know, I'd have to try and figure out where I am to figure out what that is. Try to follow in some road somewhere or something, because, yeah, not a clue what that is. I don't think we have anything quite that big in Plymouth. Right, so we're going to head over to see if we can find... I'm guessing that's the A38 again there. It does look like it, doesn't it? In fact, if we put this on... Yes, I don't know what this one going up is. Well, that'll be the one... That, oh, there we go. That's the same roundabout we crashed into just now, isn't it? So, yes, let's try this again. Live pause. There we go. Bit more of a reasonable location. Where's my mouse? So you can see what I said here about some of the things not working exactly as you might hope. So... You can see that some of the bridges are working. All of this is actually quite raised, but it isn't showing it very well. The flyover is showing quite well. You see the cars sort of disappear in there as they dip into the terrain, and the actual textures here are quite low again, because Plymouth isn't a popular place, really, so the textures are going to be pretty low when you get close to the ground. But I can tell where that is. As I said, that is actually a petrol station, so that's the first thing I've seen which is actually wrong, which is quite interesting. That's the EDF building, that's a pub there. So if we just straighten up our view a little bit, there's probably some key commands and stuff to do this. And then we just glide up here. So this is going to head through Manor Mead. That's interesting that it's detected some water there. Now if we try and figure out where we are again. Yeah. So that's a park. That's a park is what that is. That is not actually water at all. If we head over here... Yeah, sort of with it, sort of with it. I think I know where I am. The reason I headed over here is because there's a petrol station again, which is, I think, this one here. So that's a co-op, and that's the petrol station. So again, it doesn't do very well with petrol stations, does it? This petrol station is turned into a little office block and 3 houses as well. So it's not perfect, but as I said, it is a massive achievement over where it was before. And up here, there should be, yeah, this green bit just where my propeller is now. That's a cemetery just there. You can just about make out. You can see the sort of pathway through it. Right then. So if we move away from there, turn the tooltips off. Remember to do that for the next video, because they're going to get frustrated. Although one of the other things I want to do is run through the training as well. So I say, it's been a long time since I did any sort of flight simulator stuff. You see the frame rate's getting a little choppy because I'm playing on the Xbox Game Pass version. I don't have the Steam overlay, so I don't have frame rate up on the screen, unfortunately. And I can see that the recording is a lot choppier than my actual gameplay as well. It looks like the graphics card's getting a bit stressed, and that's caused some drop frames, so I apologise for that. So if we just head... Oh, that's the railway there, isn't it? Yeah, so I think that's a school just to the right of my wing. Recording's still a little bit choppy. I will turn the settings down, I think, going forward. I wanted to just run it at what it thought I could handle and take it from there. So that's the main railway just there. So that's some allotments. We can see just where my propeller is. This bit of greenery here is a big old park called Central Park. I grew up in a house, one of these houses just here. This is one of the places I grew up in. And that's our football stadium, which is nothing like that. It's detected it as almost essentially a ring of high-rise flats around the football field. As I said, Plymouth isn't going to be touched by anyone. Not a single person in the Sobo is going to have gone to Plymouth and gone, well, that doesn't look right. Yeah. But one of these houses just here is one of the houses I grew up in. And that's amazing to see. I'm just trying to figure out, there's another house up here I grew up in. I'm just going to figure out. So that's a co-op. There's actually a little tower on top of that co-op. So I think, yeah, this is all a bit wrong, this bit. There is a bit of a factory complex here, but it doesn't look quite like this. And this yellow building here is an old people's home, which is kind of yellow. So I think where these high-rise sort of flats here are, that's where another house I grew up in. Isn't a high-rise flat. There are houses there. It's just got themselves a bit confused. And that's the little park I used to spend all of my youth in. Pretty much all of my youth. Right, let's not crash into the ground. Not crash into the ground. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Nope. Damn it. I wish there's a way of just saying, just pop yourself a few thousand feet into the air from here. That'd be perfect. Custom toolbar. Ooh, do we have anything in here? Nope, they're all there. Okay. I say travel to. No, because I don't have a flight plan, so I can't do that. Damn it, I'm going to have to reload again, aren't I? Darn. Darn. Yeah, okay, we're going to have to reload again. Oh. This is what happens when you try and get too low to the ground, isn't it? I did mention before I was going to talk about my pedals a little bit, and the reason for that is, essentially, it's by way of an apology. Months and months ago, an old school member of the channel, or subscriber of the channel, called JJ Guardian, who is a trained pilot. He has a pilot's license. He offered very, very kindly to, and we are, yeah, perfect, to train me in DCS, I think in the F-15 add-on, which has got the aircraft carrier, to train me in that plane, taking off, landing on the aircraft carrier, which is an amazing idea. I was very much up for that idea. I had to buy the add-on itself because I didn't have it for DCS, so I wanted to wait for the Steam sale. In the meantime, I did also pick up the rudder pedals as well, which I think JJ recommended would be very useful, and sort of thing that, you know, I love spending stuff on gadgets, so easily sold. And then, as you are aware, I had a baby in March, so it's sort of getting up towards that time, and we were very busy going out and sorting stuff out, so I just never managed to get back to JJ, so massive, massive apologies to JJ. I spent, I can't remember what the add-on cost me now, and what the pedals, probably about £150 altogether I spent preparing for that, and not quite actually doing it, so yeah, apologies to JJ. Right, so we're going to have one little more of a look at Plymouth, and we are going to head towards where I think the city centre is, and then try and take a look at the Hoe and the Barbican. That's the plan. So now I very much knew where I was in Plymouth. I could very much figure out where I was going from there. It's a little trickier from where I am because I don't know exactly where I am. I need to try and get some bearings a bit. Just bring this up. Is this the A? This is the A38. So, oh, I'm way out. It's over here. See, I think we were heading towards the dockyard and everything there. So, we head up a little bit so I can get a bit of a better look. That's Home Park. That's the football stadium. So that's good. That's given us a bit of a clue. Which means that should be the railway station just there. Looks like it. Yes, perfect. So this block of buildings just here should be... Yeah, if we pause the game there. So this block of buildings here is... Yes, okay. D, go away. D, go away. D, 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 go away. Nope, there we go. Is the Plymouth University. So it's not quite perfect. This building's pretty good. It's got a bit of a slope to it. I think that's called that's the Roland of Inscombe building there. Yeah, building there. This one looks a little bit wrong. That's the Babbage. I went to Plymouth University, so I know the campus pretty well. That looks a little bit wrong. That's the Babbage building, Marine building. But it's all, the general layout's all there. It's picked up that these are all townhouses, although it's made them about 4 stories higher than they need to be. Those are all townhouses. That's the new sports centre. That is actually water. That is a reservoir there, so it has picked that up correctly. But yeah, so that is the major sort of employer for Plymouth, really, Plymouth University. This here is a new building. This is a student flats, which is now, I think, the tallest building in Plymouth. And this here is the city centre, pretty much. So if we just come over this way a little bit. So one of the things I wanted to see was this building here, which was the mall, because it is quite distinctive, and it doesn't look quite right. It would need a little bit of manual assistance to pick up on. That is the new part of the mall that's been built just over there, I think, isn't it? Yes. And all of this here is Plymouth City Centre. That there is a multi-storey car park, and that's a Toys R Us. So, again, it's not quite perfect, but I can easily navigate myself around Plymouth, just looking at these not quite right buildings. All of this is pretty accurate because it was all post-war. All this was flattened during the war, the Second World War. So all this was built post-war as just very sort of flat grey buildings, so it looks pretty much exactly as you see it there. Not the greatest looking city centre in the world. Not the greatest looking city centre in the world. That's interesting that it's picked up a bunch of houses there. I think... Let's have a look. So that's the university. That's that new building. So there's a Tesco's there. Yeah, so that is actually a little multi-storey car park in there, not a collection of houses. So that's the kind of interesting how it's gone from car park to houses. And you can see here one of the things I mentioned before. We have these boats which have been docked on these docks. I suppose that would be the best way of saying it. But they're actually under the water for some reason. It hasn't quite detected them correctly. So let's move forward through the city centre. And one of the things I was very interested to see, and was assuming it would be picked up, but it actually hasn't, would be this little house here. This little house here is Eddystone Lighthouse, a fairly famous lighthouse. It definitely exists. It's definitely not that. It is a tall red and white striped lighthouse. I was interested to see if I assumed it would have a generic lighthouse model, but apparently not. This is actually a statue down here that's been detected as houses. And this is put 2 blue roofed or green roofed buildings here, but that is actually a Lido. That's a pool just there. And so you can see it's picked up a few buildings, but this is what I said is quite, if we go forward a little bit and then spin the camera around. Yeah, this is what I said, it's quite a vertical kind of structure, really. It's all sort of post-Victorian concrete slabbed stuff. Not the prettiest stuff and a bit crumbly these days. So I did wonder how it would cope with that. This is the Citadel over here, which obviously is massive. Not quite as big as that. I mean, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like 15 stories. It isn't quite that big. And this bit over here, which looks relatively colourful, doesn't it, is actually the Plymouth Barbican. So it's actually the... Yeah, we're fine. We're going down. Well, can I just take off from the water? No, so it's just gonna... Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe. Can we get enough speed to take off from the water? Not looking good, is it? Got our flaps down. Throttle isn't max, but it is definitely detecting that there are some friction from the water. So in fact, the throttle, the flat seems to have slowed us down even more, don't they? So we can nose down into the water. What if we nose down a little bit? Well, it's very difficult to nose down just a little bit. Oh, I think we're stuck here again, aren't we? Should have brought a seaplane. Should have brought a seaplane. Lesson learned. Yeah, I don't think there's much we can do about that, is there? Oh well, let's just put the live pause on, shall we? And then if we lose the ability to move the camera around, to reset the cockpit view. Nope. Is it because it's on live pause? No, the controls, I had this before, the view controls seem to get a little bit messed up, so I can't actually... Oh, there we go. So now if I do this, and now I should be able to move the camera. Perfect. Let's go back into live pause. And zoom out a little wee bit. So we've travelled probably fairly far from Plymouth now, haven't we? Yes. Awesome. Well, I'm going to leave that there. I was hoping it would be a little bit smoother an experience, but we didn't quite make it, did we? We saw a little bit of Dartmoor, we saw a little bit of Plymouth. That is, as I say, what they recommend that you should do straight away is go in and jump in and just take a look at your house in-game. So I thought that's exactly what I would do. As I said, I am totally planning on doing a few more of these videos. Looking at various things. We'll do a little tour of the UK as well, so we can look at the locations that I've been to around there, look at where I got married and engaged, that sort of thing. That could be quite interesting. It's interesting that the water's got enough friction that it won't let me take off. Interesting. Yes, so I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, do click the like button. That would be massively, massively appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comments, all that sort of thing, leave them down below. As I said, I am planning on doing a short series on this, so it would really help me out if you did like it, that you hit the like button, so I know that people are actually interested in watching it as well. It will give me that little bit of extra drive to, a little bit of a freeze there, to push on with the game a bit more. So that would be really, really useful. I will see you next time in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and as always, thank you oh so very, very much for joining me.